D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We hope you are having a wonderful Tuesday, a beautiful day in Nashville, Tennessee. Willie Donick, of course, not here, not even in the country. Willie Donick is in Stockholm, Sweden, with the Nashville Predators, who will be facing the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2 games Friday and Sunday in the NHL's Global Series. So Willie Donick will join us at some point this week. I think we have something planned for tomorrow. But Willie's off gallivanting in Sweden. So we're going to hold it down for y'all while Willie is out there eating meatballs, because that's what Swedish people do, right? They eat meatballs.
I eat meatballs too.
Swedish meatballs and shop at IKEA. That's about the extent
Turkey
of my.
meatballs.
What about turkey meatballs?
That's what I eat.
Oh yeah,
Not beef meatballs.
I like a good turkey meatball.
Nothing wrong with
Beef meatballs are overrated, I think.
I haven't had one in about 20 years.
Well, nevertheless, Willie's probably eating
Yes.
Swedish meatballs over there in Stockholm. So we will catch up with Willie Donick this week. Happy Veterans Day to all of you who have served our country. We appreciate your sacrifice. And I would not be doing my duty as a loving husband if I did not wish my wife, Bridget, a happy birthday. She loves attention. So happy birthday, honey. I said your name on the radio.
Wow. It is her birthday.
It is.
Man, still anything planned? Or
She's
you're going to wait until the weekend?
She's working today. Yeah. My son and my sister-in-law are at home right now baking a cake for my wife.
Did she know that?
No.
Wow, you just spoiled it.
She's not listening.
How do you?
She only listens when I mention her, so she'll probably listen to this.
She knows her
later.
No, she knows her birthday is today, so I'm sure she turned it on.
We'll see.
Yeah, you got that. There we go. To Bridget.
Is that the happy birthday music?
Happy birthday, yeah.
All right. Happy birthday, Bridget.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
to ya.
Happy birthday,
Bridget. There we go.
She is.
Don't tell her age.
She is 21.
There you go.
Plus.
Whatever.
She is 21 for the 16th year in a row. How about that?
There you go. I was about to say, do you want to be sleeping on the couch again? I remember that look she gave you when we were at the place.
That party foul.
Exactly.
All the talk about Diego Pavia's mom.
Absolutely.
By the way, David, you sent us a picture.
Yeah,
was that Diego Pavia's mom actually hugging Theo Von?
Yes, it is. Yep.
I thought that was AI.
I was at the game, and I
thought that was AI.
Yeah.
I turn, I see Diego and Theo Von hugging. I was like, our Diego's mom hugging Theo Von. I was like, I got to take this photo.
Well,
there you go.
Love is in the air. Love is in the air.
That's what Diego does.
He brings people together.
He brings people together.
He does bring people together. Speaking of college football, Joe Rexroad of Robbie and Rexroad and The Athletic will join us at 3:40 today. Trevor Maddich will join us at 4:20. We'll talk college football and NFL with both Joe and Trevor Maddich. Programming note, Barry Trotz, Predators GM, will not be joining us today or this week. We were hoping to have him on yesterday, but Barry Trotz was at the Hockey Hall of Fame induction in Toronto, and now he is in Sweden with the team. So we will not be discussing, or we will not be chatting with Barry Trotz. We will be discussing the Nashville Predators because, woo, that was bad last night.
Man.
And it was incredibly predictable. So we will get to the Predators during the 4:00 hour, but Barry Trotz will not be joining us this week. We will catch up again with Barry Trotz next week once the team returns from Sweden. Now, if you listen to this show, we love our sponsors. We love Bax Homeworks. Bax Homeworks is a fabulous sponsor. They transform kitchens, bathrooms, and living spaces into places you can't wait to come home to. You can get a free estimate now at baxhomeworks.com. But if our show was not sponsored by Bax Homeworks, it would be sponsored by Tankathon.com. I love Tankathon.com. I wear out that URL. I wear it out. It's sad because sometimes I'll go to Google and type in Tankathon, and then Tankathon will come up, and there will be this little note that says, you visit often. It's not great. But I do visit Tankathon.com often because both teams in town stink, and you need to see where they're going to be in the draft order. So the Tennessee Titans had a fabulous weekend. They did not play, which was fabulous for all of us because we didn't have to watch them play. But the Saints won. The Jets won. The Dolphins won an extra game.
Mhm.
That was the craziest score of the weekend, I think. The Dolphins beat the Bills
Yeah,
30-13.
I don't think anyone saw that.
No, I predicted the Bills would cover and take it to the bank, and that certainly did not happen. But the Titans are in the driver's seat to have the number 1 overall pick again. According to Tankathon.com, the current draft order: Titans 1, Saints 2, Giants 3, Browns 4, Jets 5. That's the top 5. If you want to fill out the second half of the top 10, Las Vegas 6, Miami 7, Washington 8, Cincinnati 9, and Atlanta, or I guess the Rams have Atlanta's first round pick. So the Rams have the 10th pick. Okay. I don't remember why. I don't remember what trade that was, but nevertheless. And the interesting thing about where the Titans sit right now, Derek, is let's say the Titans have the number 1 overall pick in the draft once again. We would assume that the Titans aren't going quarterback. They believe in Cam Ward. Now, just because you draft a quarterback high one year doesn't mean that you can't draft a quarterback high in another year. The one example that comes to mind, the Arizona Cardinals drafting Josh Rosen with the 10th overall pick in 2018, then turning around and drafting Kyler Murray with the number 1 overall pick the following year. So it happens. So I'm not going to completely rule out the idea that the Titans could draft a quarterback, but if I had to guess, I would say the Titans aren't drafting a quarterback. So let's say the Titans do get the number 1 pick, as they are in position to do for the second consecutive year. Are there any quarterbacks out there who could compel other teams to trade up for the number 1 overall pick? And on Saturday morning, before the weekend in college football, Pete Thamel of ESPN.com published a story, Mendoza top vote getter as QB1 for upcoming NFL draft. Thamel writes, quote, ESPN repolled 25 NFL scouts and executives about who will be the first quarterback taken in the 2026 NFL draft, with the results drastically different from 6 weeks ago. In the latest poll, Indiana's Fernando Mendoza was the top vote getter with 13 votes, putting him ahead of Oregon's Dante Moore with 6 and Alabama's Ty Simpson with 3. Notably, none of those quarterbacks received a vote in the first poll, and all have eligibility remaining. Thamel writes, the top of this year's crop has flipped from September 20th, when 7 different quarterbacks received votes, with Lenore Sellers edging out LSU's Garrett Nussmeier. So when this exercise was done 6 weeks ago, Lenore Sellers of South Carolina had the most votes from NFL scouts as the top quarterback in the upcoming class, followed by Garrett Nussmeier. Carson Beck received 3 votes. John Mateer received 3 votes. Drew Aller of Penn State received 2 votes. Sam Levitt of Arizona State received a vote. Arch Manning received a vote. So this was written before Mendoza engineered a 10-play, 80-yard drive with under 2 minutes left as Indiana escaped Penn State 27-24 on that ridiculous catch from Omar Cooper. Sidebar, another great result from that, Chris Sanders lost in silly underdog picks because he did.
That's always good.
He did pick Penn State to beat Indiana. So I was thrilled when Indiana won, just to stick it to Chris. And we'll do silly underdog picks tomorrow, but I digress. So that poll from Pete Thamel, that story was published before Mendoza led Indiana to the 27-24 win at Penn State. And depending on which sports book you look at, Fernando Mendoza is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. So here's my question, Derek. Do you think Fernando Mendoza is a good enough quarterback that if the Titans have the number 1 overall pick in the draft next spring, that one of these many quarterback needy teams, and we'll go through them, the Jets, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Raiders, do you think Fernando Mendoza is good enough to convince one of those teams, assuming the Titans have the number 1 overall pick, to trade up to number 1?
Well, that's the question that, was sort of out there last year about Cam Ward, about that class. Can, somebody be convinced to move up to that number 1 spot? Because at the time, the Titans didn't have the number 1 spot. But isn't anyone willing to move up to that number one spot and to trade to try to get a quarterback. Well, after everything sort of shook out, we knew the New York Giants seemed to be the only team that wanted to move up. Now, did they want to get Cam Ward? I don't know, but if you're going to move up to the number one spot, you want that
If
quarterback.
the Giants were moving up to number one,
it was going to be a
the
quarterback.
Giants were taking Cam Ward.
Exactly. So it only takes one team to it doesn't have to be 5. It doesn't have to be a 2 years ago draft where people are trying to move up to get certain quarterbacks. It don't have to be that. It just has to be one team and that one quarterback. This class, before the season even started, like you said, it was flipped. You had a bunch of guys on there, Lenore Sellers, Arch Manning, guys like that were projected to be, 1, 2, flip, however you're going to do it. Now that the season's gone on, guys like Mendoza and these other quarterbacks, now Ty Simpson, he was nowhere on the chart, I don't think. But now these guys are played so well that they are worthy to be considered a number one pick. Now it takes just one team. And if the Titans get the number one pick, I believe there probably is going to be one team that believes that they are that one young quarterback away from building their program back up or their organization back up and have a long, sustained, winning at that franchise. So it only takes one team. And I would probably, if I was erring on one side or the other, I would err on there will be a team that is going, if the Titans get the number one pick, there will be a team that's going to offer them something to move up to that spot to get a quarterback. Because we all know that, like Cam Ward, many people said, you get that bump, that quarterback bump, and say if Mendoza's ranked the 5th or 6th best player or 8th, like Cam was, that automatically, depending on who picks, that automatically gives him a bump because either they're going to take a quarterback or they're going to trade out of that space and somebody else is going to want to take that quarterback. And it presented itself last year, and it only has to present itself this year once again with one team. That's it.
Multiple texters have pointed out to me that the reason why the Rams have the 10th pick from Atlanta is because Atlanta traded up to get James Pierce. So that's why that pick is the Rams and not the Falcons on takeathon.com. I completely forgot about that. Thank you for everybody reminding me. By the way, sidebar here. Joey from Bellevue, who also reminded me of this, said, Derek, I heard that you're the Ravens' leading receiver in history and that Mark Andrews is about to break it. That's an amazing feature, you being the all-time receiver for 2 franchises at the moment. Mark Andrews, Derek, 3 yards away from becoming the all-time receiving leader for the Baltimore Ravens.
He's a damn good player. I don't know him personally, but obviously I watch them as just like I watch the Titans, and he's been a staple for that team since he's gotten there. And unfortunate for him, he had the drop last year, but he's still a great player. So it was only a matter of time because he's been with that organization a long time and he's playing really, really good football. So hats off to him. He broke the single season record that I had in receptions, and now he breaks the receiving yardage. So good for him.
Are you going to have to record one of those videos where after he breaks the record, they'll show it on the scoreboard? Like, hey, Mark, it's Derek Mason. Congratulations on beating my record.
But then I think Zay Flowers is going to break his. So it's going to be a perpetual breaking of records because I think, Andrews will break mine, and I think Zay Flowers will break his.
Back to Mendoza. And admittedly, I'm not watching a ton of Indiana football. I watched part of the game on Saturday. I watched the game-winning drive by the Hoosiers against the Nittany Lions, but I'm not watching Indiana football on a regular basis. My vibe is that Mendoza is like Cam Ward in the sense that he is at the moment, best option at quarterback in an underwhelming class. That's how I feel about it right now. Pete Thamel of ESPN, who did the poll, Writes, quote, while Mendoza is the top vote getter, he has yet to establish himself as a no-brainer number 1 overall pick. He is trending that way, but there is not yet conviction behind those projections. What do scouts like? They start with the basics of him being 6'5" and 225 pounds. He idolizes Tom Brady, which is viewed as a strong North Star for a prospect. One scout told ESPN, quote, he has wow throws and playmaking passer ability. He can anticipate post-snap, added another. He's decisive and he sees everything well. He's got accuracy down the field and is very tough in the pocket. So again, my novice take on Mendoza is he is going to be at the moment, if things continue the way they seem to be continuing with Mendoza and the Hoosiers, Mendoza could be the 2026 version of Cam Ward, the best quarterback in an underwhelming class.
But like Cam Ward, he has been this would be his second school. Cam was with 3, but if you're just talking, Division I, he was with Washington and then went to Miami. But like Cam, each stop that Mendoza has had, or each year he's played, he's gotten better. His first year at Cal, his second year at Cal was much better than his first, and now his third year, in college, but his first year with Indiana, his numbers are even better. So he's getting better the more he play. That's a good sign that he can go from system to system and still develop as a quarterback. And that's what Cam did. I think that's why so many people, felt that he was, or at least let's say the Titans felt that he was worthy of that number 1 pick. There were a lot of other things involved, but when you see a guy that can go from 2 to 3 different places and he's developing and getting better at those places, then that's a good thing. And that's what Mendoza has been able to do. When he was at Cal, he was developing. He went to Indiana, and now he's even better than he was his first 2 years at Cal. So again, it's not so much now. Some of it will. How far does Indiana go in college football playoffs? If Mendoza is the reason why they are winning these games and get to a national championship, then that's a plus for him. But then I think it's ultimately going to come down to, the combine and all these interviews and people, going over his tape with a fine-tooth comb. Right now, he may be the leader in the ball house in the clubhouse. But once they really start to do their evaluations, will he end up being that guy?
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Titans are in the driver's seat for the number 1 overall pick. Again, Fernando Mendoza is considered the top quarterback at the moment in the upcoming draft class. Is Mendoza worth trading up to number 1 overall? Because if the Titans have the number 1 overall pick, if they're looking for those premium picks that they could have gotten for trading Jeffrey Simmons, trading out of the number 1 overall pick is the quickest way to do it. But is Mendoza the quarterback who's going to get it done? 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on that. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Mendoza in trouble. It's out. Touchdown. Wow. A rock play. Unbelievable. Give him the Heisman Trophy now.
That was Gus Johnson short-circuiting after Fernando Mendoza hit Omar Cooper Jr. in the back of the end zone for Indiana as the Hoosiers escaped Penn State with a win on Saturday. Gotta love Gus Johnson. He always brings it. So this is the question that we are discussing, and we want your thoughts as well at 615-737-1025. Pete Thamel of ESPN.com had a story published on Saturday morning. He polled 25 NFL scouts and executives about who will be the first quarterback taken in the 2026 NFL draft. At the moment, Fernando Mendoza is the top vote getter with 13 votes, putting him ahead of Oregon's Dante Moore with 6 and Ty Simpson of Alabama with 3. So my question is Fernando Mendoza worth trading up to number 1 overall? Because that's where the Titans are right now. And the Titans, again, I assume, aren't going to take a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. I wonder how many times that's happened, if it's ever happened. The team taking a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick in consecutive years. I bet you have to go way back in the annals of history. But like I said, in recent history, teams have drafted quarterbacks and then drafted another quarterback the following year. I mentioned the Arizona Cardinals with Josh Rosen. He was a top 10 pick. He didn't pan out. The Cardinals had the number 1 pick in 2019. They took Kyler Murray. By the way, doesn't look like things are working out with Kyler Murray in Arizona right now. The Cardinals could need a quarterback. Could the Cardinals be interested in trading up to number 1 overall? And we'll get to that in a moment. So that's my question. Is Fernando Mendoza worth trading up to number 1 overall? Lenny on our text line says, I say we just give the team that wants a quarterback Cam, and then we take their pick. Well, you could end up in the same position you are right now. But Dane Brugler and Nick Baumgartner of The Athletic, who are, they are 2 of The Athletic's top NFL draft analysts. And speaking of The Athletic, Joe Rexrode of The Athletic and Robbie Rexrode will be joining us in roughly 15 minutes. We'll ask him about this as well. Here's what Brugler and Baumgartner said about Mendoza. NFL scouts consider Mendoza the most likely of the draft-eligible underclassmen quarterbacks to declare. And although it won't be a consensus, he will be quarterback 1 for multiple teams picking near the top of the draft. Most NFL teams considered last year's class to be a 1-quarterback draft in the top 10. That's how it played out, with Cam Ward going number 1 and Jackson Dart then waiting until number 25. It could be the case again next April if Mendoza is the only underclassman passer to turn pro, which would make the top 5 in the draft order even more compelling. And Derek, there are a ton of teams in the NFL who need a quarterback. The New York Jets have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. 5. I would love if the Titans could get some of those. And the Jets absolutely need a quarterback, because when an owner of a team speaks about a quarterback the way Woody Johnson did about Justin Fields, it's over. So the Jets absolutely need a quarterback. We know that. The Cleveland Browns, hell, they always need a quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, he's fine for now, but the Browns, they always need a quarterback. What about the Miami Dolphins? Tua Tagovailoa, what's his future in Miami? Doesn't seem great. I mentioned the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of reports over the weekend about how the Cardinals could be preparing to move on from Kyler Murray. Could the Steelers be looking for a quarterback if Aaron Rodgers is one and done? Could the Raiders replace Geno Smith at quarterback? There are a ton of teams who need quarterbacks. So to your point, Derek, even if Mendoza is like Cam Ward, he's the best quarterback in this draft. In a better quarterback draft, he would not be the best quarterback, but he can't help that. If Mendoza occupies the same spot that Cam Ward did 1 year ago, there is going to be a team desperate enough to do it.
Of course, there are a bunch of teams, a handful of teams out there that either need a quarterback or may be considering a quarterback, because you got to understand, the Cardinals, yes, they may be in the market for the quarterback, but Kyler Murray may go to, say, the Jets,
Right.
where they are in need of a quarterback too, but they can get them a quarterback he's a good quarterback, and he's a veteran guy, and he is still on the same contract. He's still on his second contract, I believe, second or third. This is second, I believe. So you could make a trade for him, and now you've at least got a stable, proven NFL quarterback. Now, and I'm not saying that Murray is the top, 7 or 10 quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. So if you're the Jets, and if you feel you got so many holes and you got so many picks, then maybe you could trade one of those picks for Kyler Murray, one of those second round picks for Kyler Murray, and something else. You get a proven quarterback with some proven talent on offense that the Jets have, and then you draft around him. The Cardinals, I think that whole project that they had with Kyler Murray, and I think they're done with it. So if they do trade him, maybe one of these teams, the Jets or the Dolphins, who may be in the market for a quarterback, maybe they choose to go the veteran route rather than drafting a quarterback in this particular draft. So I think it first starts there, because that's going to show up before the NFL draft. So to me, if one of those guys do move, then it takes away, a team. Say if, I don't know who's out there, Cleveland Browns. Say if they, or New Orleans. Say if they stay at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now those other teams behind New Orleans or in the mix with New Orleans, they don't need quarterbacks. Now, does that make New Orleans offer a bigger deal? Or do they say, well, hell, ain't nobody really behind us, so we'll stay put at 2. We know the Titans ain't drafted a quarterback. We stay put at 2. Now we don't have to trade away any of our picks. That's going to be the dilemma for the Tennessee Titans.
Let's look quickly at let me pull back up tankathon.com.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the teams behind the Titans in the draft order, which was all of the teams. But let's look at the teams. Let's
just
look
the top 10 teams.
Yes, let's look at the teams directly behind the Titans. New Orleans just drafted Tyler Shuck, and he's now in there. Spencer Rattler's out. Tyler Shuck is back in. The Giants have Jackson Dart, who keeps suffering concussions. Maybe that changes now that the Giants have fired Brian Daboll. The Browns always need a quarterback. They drafted 2 a year ago, Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders. The Jets absolutely need a quarterback. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Dolphins need a quarterback. The Commanders do not need a quarterback. Jaden Daniels is hurt. He's not having a great season, but they've got Jaden Daniels. Cincinnati.
They don't need a quarterback.
But do you consider drafting Burrow's heir apparent?
Not now. Not in the first round, no.
The Rams. Matthew Stafford's only got so many years left.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of teams. Arizona's at 11. Dallas is at 12. So there are plenty of teams behind the Titans who could draft a quarterback.
But some of it is going to depend, again, I think, on whether, those teams like Arizona, which if they do, go away from Kyler Murray and say they do trade him, say to Cleveland or the Jets. Now, again, it takes the Jets out of the market, but now it puts Arizona back in the market for a quarterback. So does Arizona, if they make a trade, do they make a trade with the Jets so they can get to the 5th spot for Kyler Murray? Maybe they do that. They just swap spots. Because we know the Jets, Arizona needs a quarterback, then the Jets would have a quarterback. So then now what has to happen is New Orleans probably ain't going to get a quarterback. The Giants ain't going to get a quarterback. Cleveland is sort of the wild card here because
they always need a quarterback.
They always need a quarterback, but they did draft 2 last year.
Yes.
One is playing and ain't looking good. Eventually they go to the other and make the determination on whether they do get a quarterback, or they say, you know what, this class isn't good enough. Let's trade out of whatever pick we are at, get more picks and build the team around a Shador Sanders or a Dylan Gabriel.
Brian on our text line says, could we be heading to a time the way college football is now where you don't have elite prospects at quarterback every year? If that's the case, will teams be looking more at your Sam Darnold type instead of the flashy rookies?
What's going to happen is this, because ultimately, there's not like really old quarterbacks, like starting quarterbacks in the NFL. There aren't outside of what Matthew Stafford.
Old quarterbacks?
Yeah, like
Joe
old
Flacco.
Joe Flacco, but he's not. We know Joe. He's just in and out. But I'm saying like
Matthew Stafford. Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, he'll be gone.
Those are the ones that come to mind.
Those are the only two teams that come to mind. What is that telling you? It's like maybe we are going to sort of be forced to draft these quarterbacks and let them sit now, because you have so many guys that are coming out earlier that Washington doesn't need a quarterback. Chicago doesn't need a quarterback. And you're talking about, that's just two teams. I'm not going to name others, but that's just two teams. Say McCarthy pans out. Minnesota doesn't need so you're talking about 2-3 teams that don't need a quarterback, at least for the next 10 years in our eyes. So where does that put the quarterbacks that are coming out? Because eventually all these teams are going to be like that, where we got our quarterback set for the next 10 years. And now you draft in that heir apparent and they have to sit. So maybe we get back to that.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the quarterback market, more specifically the draft eligible quarterbacks. 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode of Robbie and Rexrode and the Athletic will join us. We'll get his thoughts on this. He's a big-time college football guy now. We'll talk to Rexrode about this and more. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some good news, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Chase Bingen and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam
Gout
Bingen.
man.
There it is. Gout man. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. And that could mean only one thing. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCounty.com, and welcome in our very own Joe Rexroad from Robbie and Rexroad and The Athletic. Hello, Joe. How are you?
You know, that song, honestly, like that gets me so excited. Like when I hear the Batman music from the Adam West Batman, like that brings me back to like being like 4 years old. I was so excited. But then you guys said Gout Man and made fun of me, so now I feel bad about myself.
But you know what? You got a sponsorship out of your gout, so I don't think you should be that upset about it. That's what I'm saying.
That is true.
So, Joe, we were
Gout
talking
can
about
be very lucrative.
It can. It absolutely can. We were talking about Fernando Mendoza, and you're a big college football reporter, columnist, analyst. So I want your opinion on this as someone who watches Fernando Mendoza more closely than the two of us. With the Titans in the driver's seat for the number 1 overall pick, let's say they stay there and they have the number 1 overall pick again. Is Fernando Mendoza, in your mind, worth trading up to number 1 overall for a team needing a quarterback?
Well, it's a good question. Well, first of all, let me say this. You know, Dane Brugler put out his top 50, I think, today, unless it was yesterday I missed it. But he had Fernando Mendoza as his number 2 quarterback. He has Ty Simpson of Alabama as his number 1 quarterback and the number 2 overall prospect. And I will say that when you watch them play, now Mendoza made some big plays with his legs, you know, against Penn State, but I do think that athletically there's a little bit of a difference there. And I think Ty Simpson has been tremendous. So I feel like we may be, you know, this is how, I mean, first of all, it's how media loves it, right? When we can get the, is it, you know, Cam Ward or Shador, you know, Drake May or Caleb Williams. I do feel like we may be headed for a Mendoza-Simpson debate. But to answer your question, I mean, I don't think any of these guys are like that level. To me, they're not Caleb Williams or Drake May or even Jaden Daniels, you know? And the same thing was true last year, in my opinion. I just didn't think any of the quarterbacks coming out, including Cam Ward or Jackson Dart, just, you know, at that point, in my mind, they were not that level of prospect, you know? So I guess my answer is no, but I also would say, if you ask me, do I expect teams to do it? Oh, heck yes, I do.
So, Joe, I enjoyed your column off of the Vanderbilt win against Auburn over the weekend, a thrilling 45-38 overtime win for the Commodores. If I'm not mistaken, the latest CFP rankings will be released later today. How do you think the CFP committee will view Vanderbilt's win on Saturday? Because the offense is there, as you wrote in your column. The offense is there, but the defense, which is strange considering it's a Clark Lee coached team, has been struggling mightily over the past 2 weeks, allowing an average of nearly 500 yards in each of the past 2 games. So how do you think the CFP committee will look at Vanderbilt's most recent win?
Yeah, well, I think the way they should, I mean, it's just so hard. It's new committee this year, and Mack Rhodes last week made such a big deal out of the film watching. I mean, half of his teleconference after the rankings were like, oh, we look at teams, their D line and their O line, we look at their strong up the middle, and it's like, okay, well, that's fine, but like, you know, I feel like there should be some sort of more consistent guidelines in terms of just performance that I think should be more important. But anyway, you know, I think they should look at it like this. Auburn came to play, and we see this. Teams fire their coaches, and a lot of times you'll see that. You'll see a team that comes out fired up the next week. They came out to play. They changed quarterbacks. They changed a lot of what they did offensively. Clark Lee talked about that after the game. They did some tempo stuff, some formation and motion stuff they hadn't showed all year. And yeah, look, that's not to excuse Vanderbilt's defense. It was bad, but Auburn played hard. Auburn threw a curveball. Vanderbilt's defense is a problem, but Auburn's defense has been elite this year. Not good, not really good. It's elite. I mean, it's across the board. It has held every team below its scoring average. It was one of three, along with Indiana, Ohio State, to not allow more than 24 points. The rushing numbers, I mean, all up and down the stat sheet, that Auburn defense has been elite and has been betrayed by the offense. Well, Vanderbilt just destroyed that defense. And so, you know, I do think I put a little more stock just because Auburn came to play in what Vanderbilt did offensively that no one else had been able to do. Texas played them, Georgia played them, Ole Miss, Oklahoma played them, not Ole Miss, Missouri, but when they had their quarterback. And all those teams came in under their normal numbers, and Vanderbilt came in above theirs. So I do think, and I think that also goes to Diego Pavia, right? I mean, he's been unbelievable. In particular, the last 2 weeks, almost leading the comeback against Texas, and then really just saving their bacon against Auburn.
Now, Joe, with that being said, to me, and I said this yesterday, I'm not sure if this is sustainable. Now, I mean, and when I say sustainable, I mean, if indeed they win their last 2 games, because to me, they're going to have to outscore the way their defense is playing. They're going to have to outscore Tennessee because Tennessee is putting up a bunch of points. But even with that, if indeed they do win both those games and get into the college football playoffs, is this defense, is the way they're playing with the lack of defense stoppages, is sustainable moving forward?
Well, I mean, I think I agree with you, D. Mace, on the next 2 games, and I think it's just going to be true after that too, right? I mean, they're going to have to. So, like, if they played an Ohio State, which to me is a team that has the kind of defense, and again, Auburn's defense is great, and they got pros in the defense, but like a team like Ohio State, to me, that's a defense that they're so fast and so they're just loaded at all 3 levels. That's a defense I could see at least holding Vanderbilt's score down, and then on the other side, I just wouldn't be a good matchup. So, I mean, I think it's about matchups, but ultimately, I think any wins, if they get in the college football playoff, any win that they are to get in the college football playoff is going to be by shootout too, you know? So, but, you know, you just got to find some stops. The defense has been good this year, and they've played some good offenses, and they've played well. I mean, Missouri has a good offense, and Vanderbilt, and their quarterback got hurt in the game, but still they scored 10 points. I mean, they have played good defense, and they did get a stop at the end of regulation, and they got the stop in overtime against Auburn. So, I mean, it's not like it's been terrible all year. They need to use this idle week. I hope you guys heard that idle week to address it. And, you know, Kentucky could be the type of offense that might be a little bit of a get-right offense for them to face, too, before what I think is, you know, a really tough matchup on the road against that Tennessee offense.
Now, with them playing the way that they are on defense, Rex, say if they do, you know, end the season 10-2, are they a lock to make the college football playoffs? Or would they, because I see where in the first iteration of the playoffs where they ranked Vanderbilt, and I thought maybe it should have been a little bit higher, but it's the first one, I get it. But there's a point where you're outside, you're like the last 4 in, and then you're at the bottom, that a lot of things above you, even if you win, has to happen. So is that the case with Vanderbilt?
I definitely can't say lock now. Like right now, like if you said, okay, you got to bet a large sum of money on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt goes 10-2. Mm-hmm. You have to bet a large sum of money either way. Are they in or out? I'm quickly betting the large sum of money that they're in, but that's still based on some things working their way. There'd have to be quite a few things that all work against them for them to not get in at 10-2. I mean, you know, like Texas, Oklahoma, they have tough games ahead. They'd have to pull some upsets. The ACC and Big 12, I think both would have to get to it. Notre Dame would have to get it. You know, the SEC would have to get squeezed. And again, like, would a 9-3 Texas that beat Vanderbilt get in over Vanderbilt? They might. I mean, they would have better wins, and again, they'd have the head-to-head. But I would right now, just based on how the probability of all these different things, I think they're going to be in good shape. And even though Tennessee, obviously, it's been, you know, it's a little disappointing. They lost Oklahoma. They don't have like great wins themselves. I still think a win against that team on the road would be very impressive to the committee. I think that would really bode well for Vanderbilt. So for the most part, I think they're going to be fine if they win. But yeah, there's always a chance that, you know, the ACC, like, you know, Pitt, or the ACC somehow gets 2 in, or the Big 12, they both get 2 in, and Notre Dame gets in and stuff like that. Like, it's possible. But I think they'd be in good shape if they go 10-2.
Well, I just see it as, especially if UT loses prior to them playing UT, as they did to Vandy before, they counted those wins against them early in the season. Virginia Tech, games like that. The other game where Lenore, South Carolina, Lenore Sales went out the game, it was almost counted against them. So to me, I believe that's one of those things that can potentially count against Vandy if indeed UT loses, and then you end up beating a UT team that is frankly fell out the top 25 at that point.
Yeah, you definitely, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, you definitely want to root for Tennessee to win that game at Florida. That makes the win look better. But I mean, even if that's the case, it's like, the committee. Look, they talk. They have plenty of time on their hands. Again, if they're sitting here breaking down film, and like the coaches in the committee are sitting here running cut-ups for everybody to look at, they certainly talk about, this UT team. Let's talk about them. Okay, well, if they just don't miss a field goal, they beat Georgia. Like they were in command of that game, gave up a late touchdown. They go to Alabama, which we think is a top 4 team. And, if you don't have the stupid pick 6 at the end of the first half, how is that? They do go deep into, let's look at these teams closely. So, again, I agree with you. You definitely want Tennessee to win. You want to be able to say we have X number of top 25 wins and have that be one. But, again, I still think even if it doesn't work out, Tennessee loses to Florida, but Vanderbilt beats them, I still think the other things, there's a lot of things that would have to happen otherwise, that some of them that aren't very probable to keep Vanderbilt out.
Now, obviously, Rex, we hadn't spoken to you in a while, and obviously, Brinker, not Brinker, but Boganze had his press conference. What did you think of it, of that press conference? Because it's been, a week now, or a little bit over that, since that press conference happened. And it seemed like to me, he did a good job at separating himself from Brinker. He showed that, at least for now, he's the GM. How did you feel about that press conference?
Yeah, I thought it was a good press conference, and I think it was a good. It should be a signal to the Titans, unless you have to, just have Borgonzi do the presser when it's a personnel presser, And again, I made the comparison. I know, the titles may be different, jobs may be different, but Steve Underwood, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Steve Underwood was with the Titans, and obviously he was a very important figure for that franchise, But he didn't. How many pressers did he ever go to? Here and there, if there was something huge, and it's kind of almost like speaking for the owner type thing on this particular topic or that particular topic. But other than that, it was the GMs who would talk, maybe the GM and coach together or whatever. So, but no, I thought Borgonzi was good. I thought when he wasn't in a situation where it's like, okay, do I talk here? Well, I'll wait till Brinker says, you go ahead and take this one. Or, he was just, okay, it's my deal. It's my show. And I thought, PK has said on our show, that he thinks that he's the guy in the building that, kind of seems to have some juice and have maybe some insight that's helping them, and that they should ride that train. So I didn't see anything in that presser that made me feel differently. You got to hope that, because his first draft class, there's some very good things about it. It's still all about Cam Ward. The second round pick right now doesn't look good, but there's some promise. There's some hope in that. And obviously there's been too many draft classes before that where there's very little hope, very little players who were retained.
If I know one thing about Joe Rexrode, and I've known Joe Rexrode for a long time, I know what he's doing tonight. Kentucky and Louisville, ESPN, 7 o'clock, college hoops. That's my guess. And Joe, I know that you and Robbie doesn't let you talk a lot about college basketball, but I love college basketball. So I'm going to give you an opportunity quickly to talk about college basketball. Give me your biggest overreaction from the first week of college basketball season.
My gosh, I'm so excited to get a college basketball question. Robbie will let me say something.
Are you going to be watching Kentucky Louisville tonight? Am I right about that?
Well, you hit another nerve, Adam, because I'm a YouTube TV subscriber. So no, I will not be, which really sucks. However, However, on FS1 tonight, we have Texas Tech at Illinois, which is a badass game.
By the way, the game over the weekend,
and-
Alabama and St. John's, was a fabulous game. Fabulous game over the weekend.
No, I mean, like I tweeted on Saturday, I'm like, this is a better game than any other game that we'll see in any sport today. So I just want you all to know. My overreaction. Okay, how about this? Koa Pete is the best freshman in America, and he's ranked like the 7th best coming in. This freshman class, as you know, you Boozer fan, is amazing. But I got to say, Koa Pete, oh my gosh, what he did against Florida, that kid is special. Well, as great as Darren Peterson is and all these other guys, Boozer, I'm in at Tennessee, and I'll take Koa Pete.
Let it be known that Rex Road thought that Janai Broom should have been National Player of the Year over Cooper Flagg. Let's just all remember that for a moment.
And I was
right. We'll argue about this later. Joe Rexroad of Robbie and
All
Rexroad has been our guest. You can listen to him, of course, with Robbie Stanley every morning from 6 to 9 right here on 1025 The Game. Rexroad, great stuff, my friend. We'll catch up soon.
All right, fellas. Thanks for having me. See ya.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on college football, the Titans. We'll get more into the Titans in the 5 o'clock hour. But coming up next, we got to talk about the Predators. We talked about the Predators yesterday with Willie Donick before he jetted off to Stockholm with the team. But after last night, I've got a few things I need to get off my chest about this team, and we'll do that next. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie Donick, of course, in Stockholm, Sweden with the Nashville Predators, who will take on the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2 games, one Friday, one Sunday, as part of the NHL Global Series. So Willie Donick won't be joining us live this week. We will have him on the show at some point, because at the moment it is 11 o'clock at night in Stockholm.
He should
Let's
be
wake
asleep.
up Willie.
Hey, let's call Willie,
Let's
y'all.
call Willie. Can we call international on these phones?
We'll try.
Oh,
I don't want to see that phone bill.
mm-mm.
I remember the days when I was younger, when you had to wait
6
until like
o'clock.
well, for me it was like 9 o'clock.
Was it?
It was like 9 o'clock to get free minutes.
No, it was like 6 when it first came out, 6, 7 o'clock.
So maybe we'll wake up Willie at some
Yeah.
point this week.
So we can get some free minutes.
Yes, get some free minutes. Maybe he has to call us since it's later over
Yeah,
there than it is
yeah,
over
He
here.
would have to do that.
But Willie, we'll catch up with Willie over the course of the week as the Predators are in Stockholm, Sweden. But before the Predators left for Stockholm, Sweden last night, they played the New York Rangers and they lost bad. The Predators lost 6-3 to the New York Rangers last night at Madison Square Garden in a totally predictable result. Let me read something to you from my friend Dan Rosen of NHL.com, who covered the game last night for NHL.com. Quote, the Rangers lost their first 7 home games, scoring 6 goals and getting shut out 5 times. They scored 5 goals before the second intermission Monday, with 3 coming on 4 shots in the second period. That was totally predictable. I had a feeling all day long that the Predators were going to get pummeled by the New York Rangers because of all of those stats about the Rangers struggling at home and not winning at home and being shut out 5 times in 7 games at home. I knew the Predators were going to get bludgeoned by the Rangers, and that's exactly what happened. I do want to give a quick shout out, though, to Matthew Wood. Had a hat trick last night. He's been playing really well. He may be the only thing worth watching when it comes to the Predators this season, the only player worth watching. So congratulations to Matthew Wood on the hat trick. Unfortunately, his hat trick was overshadowed by just another uninspiring performance from the Nashville Predators. And I know that Willie Donick doesn't like talking about this, but it needs to be said. It needs to be reiterated. The Predators need to fire Andrew Brunette. As far as I'm concerned, the results of the 2 games in Sweden shouldn't matter. When the Predators land back stateside, Andrew Brunette should be fired. And this is not the first time I've called from Andrew Brunette's firing. It was roughly a year ago. I sat in this chair. We were on at a different time, but I sat in this chair and explained why I would fire Andrew Brunette. So this is not a new feeling for me. I have felt this way for a while. And it just gets harder and harder and harder to watch the Nashville Predators play on a nightly basis. And I do because it's part of my job. And for more than 7 years, I covered the team every day, and I had to watch a lot of Predators games. The Predators have lost 8 of 9. They are 1-6-2 in their past 9 games. The one win came against the worst team in the NHL, the Calgary Flames. And the Predators are not that far ahead of the Calgary Flames in the standings. I am going to quote myself from X last night. This franchise has more problems than the coach, but it must show its fans that these results will not be tolerated before they tune out. And multiple people, Derek, responded to that post and said, I've already tuned out. And that's a dangerous thing if you are a sports franchise. The last thing that you want is your fans not to care. And multiple people pointed out to me last night that it's hard to watch the Predators play because FanDuel Sports Network is not readily available. And when your team is struggling as badly as the Predators are, people aren't going to go out of their way to find FanDuel Sports Network and watch the Predators. So as I just said, this team has far more problems than the coach. But it's going to take more than just a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months to fix what's going on with this franchise. The Predators need to, as I just said, show their fans that they know that these results are unacceptable. And the longer that Barry Trotz continues to stand by Andrew Brunette, the worse it looks for Barry Trotz. And by the way, Barry Trotz will not be joining us today because the team is in Sweden. So we will not be speaking to Barry Trotz this week. He will rejoin us next week when the team returns to the U.S. The longer that Barry Trotz stands by Andrew Brunette, the worse it is for Barry Trotz. And Derek, I've said this to you before, that when the Predators rehired Barry Trotz, people were thrilled because people around here love Barry Trotz. I love Barry Trotz. He is a fabulous man. He is great to talk to. We all adore Barry Trotz, the human being. But when it comes to Barry Trotz, the GM, when he arrived here, he had a bit of a force field, I thought, built around him because he's Barry Trotz. And quite frankly, a lot of Predators fans were tired of David Poile. So Barry Trotz came in with a lot of goodwill. Barry Trotz put together a team that overachieved, that made the playoffs, and things were great. But now that force field has been disintegrated. And Predators fans are upset at Barry Trotz about the moves that he's made, signing Steven Stamkos, signing Brady Shea, signing Jonathan Marchessault, all of these re-signing UC Saros, and standing by Andrew Brunette. And the easiest thing for the Predators to do is to fire the coach. And again, it's not all on Brunette. But let me just share some numbers for you. The Predators have played 100 games since the start of last season. That's a nice round number. The Predators have won 35 games since the start of last season. 35 out of 100. The Predators have been held to 2 or fewer goals in 57 of those 100 games. That leads the NHL since the start of last season. The process does look a little better. You may not believe it based on the record and what you saw last night. Last night was not good. But the process, if you look under the hood, is a little bit better. But it's hard to sell that when the Predators are only 1 point better through 18 games than they were a year ago when they started 0-5. The Predators are 5-9-4. That's 14 points. Last season, they were 5-10-3. That's 13 points. So I know that if Willie was awake right now, it's 11:08 p.m. in Sweden. If Willie were awake right now, he would not like this conversation because Willie said yesterday that he thinks that people around here are too quick to place all of the blame on the coach. I am not placing all of the blame on what's happening with the Predators on Andrew Brunette. Barry Trotz deserves a lot of blame too. But if the Predators want to demonstrate to their fan base that, hey, we know that this is unacceptable, someone needs to be made an example of. And that's and it's easy. It's quote unquote easy. It's never easy to fire someone. Trotz and Brunette go way back. Trotz believes in Brunette, coached Brunette, really likes Brunette. It wouldn't be easy for Barry Trotz to fire Andrew Brunette, but the old saying is you can't fire the player, so you've got to fire the coach. So I think the Predators, I think the Predators are in a danger zone right now, Derek, because they have been bad. They were bad last season. They're bad this season. You know, they're in danger of missing the playoffs. I want to say it's 3 out of the past 4 years, if my math is right. And look, I know that Predators fans are passionate. I absolutely know that they are passionate. I covered the team. I know a lot of the fans. I know a lot of you. I know that you are passionate about the team. But the Predators are in the worst place to be right now. They're bad. There seems to be no hope of getting better. And I think that Andrew Brunette, as bluntly as I can put it, I think Andrew Brunette needs to be sacrificed. I think the Predators need to demonstrate to their fans that they know that this isn't good enough. And I think that means letting go of Brunette.
Yeah, I would put it this way. Listen, with this group of guys and, you know, where their age, maybe Coach Brunette is not the right coach for this group of guys because, you know, if nothing happens, you're talking about, let's say if they don't facilitate a trade to get one of these, you know, older guys out of here, you're talking about at least the next 3 years with all of these guys, somewhere around there. and then their top guys are getting older. So I think ultimately it's something that Barry's going to have to do, because listen, it's not all Andrew Brunette's fault. It's not. There's everybody takes a slice of this pie. Everybody, from the GM to the coach to the players, everybody takes a slice of this pie. And I'm not saying that Coach Bruno should take a big slice of the pie, but we know where the big slice of the pie lies. That's with the players. But we're going to sacrifice this small price, means small slice, in order to try to, make the pie better than what it is, in a sense. So I don't want to see it happen. But like Brian Callahan, it's okay. We've seen it. It hadn't gotten any better. These guys are not getting any younger. We have a bunch of guys that are either, in the minors, or some young guys that are playing for us now. We need to make that transition. And the only way we can make that transition, I believe, is to do away with the head coach. Again, I'm not advocating for him being fired, but I just don't think time has shown. Is he a good coach? I think he's a good coach, but he's not a good coach for this team. I think where this team is at, they need a different type of coach. I said that about the Tennessee Titans, and who I wanted as a head coach moving forward. I don't want somebody that's just learning how to do the job. I want somebody that knows how to do the job, has experience at doing a job, has been through it all, or just about it all, and he's won and has lost. Maybe the Predators need more of a stern guy. Maybe they need a guy to start to really sort of challenge these veteran players. Maybe the voice in the locker room has gotten stale in a sense. I understand that Brady Shea the other day came out and said, listen, those small things are on players. I get it. I know it's on players, but the fans don't want to hear that. They want to hear, y'all can't. Yeah, of course you're taking the blame. You can't go anywhere. So what do we do? Or what can happen? Well, the coach is the guy that ultimately ends up getting a short stick, because he's had his opportunity, they feel, and he hasn't made this organization or this team any better than what they were when he got the job.
My gut tells me that if the Predators do make a coaching change, they will make Luke Richardson the interim coach. Luke Richardson is the associate coach. He was hired over the summer, former head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. It's the easy thing to do. I know there are Predators fans out there who are hoping that if the Predators make a coaching change, they call Pete DeBoer, because Pete DeBoer has had a lot of success. He had success with the Dallas Stars and the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights and the New Jersey Devils. He's a winning coach. I wonder if Pete DeBoer would sign up for this situation. And
why would he take the job midstream, though? That's one of those things where I'm not taking the job, because he's one of those guys. He don't need to take the job right now. He doesn't. So I wouldn't take a job midstream. I would wait till the season play itself out, because I don't want to be any part of what's going on now. If I'm a coach on the outside,
right? So the interesting thing is, if the Predators make a coaching change, what do they prioritize? Mm-hmm. Do they prioritize experience? Because if Steven Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly and Brady Shea and Jonathan Marchessault and Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi are still around and they're all under contract, do you try to find a veteran coach to get the most?
I'm going to ask you this question before you finish that.
Sure.
Do you think Lavi could coach this team?
Oh, God.
I'm saying with his personality, I think he would be more of a fit for this team.
It's an interesting point. I can't imagine the Predators would rehire him.
No, I'm not saying rehiring him, but I'm just saying someone like him.
But that's my point, is do you value a coach with experience like Laviolette or Pete DeBoer, or do you find a younger coach that can grow, a younger coach who can grow with the team? Do you prioritize developing the youth, or do you prioritize getting the most out of the veterans you have on your roster, which is, I think, an interesting question that the Predators could have to answer. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com, and welcome in Andrew. Andrew, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
guys, just kind of talking a little bit about the Preds and
Sure.
just thinking back. Obviously, I'm a Nashville born, bred, raised, so I remember the Predators in '98 when they came. I guess I was in elementary school, and Trotz always talked about like the Predator way. But in my opinion, I feel like this team in the NHL has changed the way they play the game since '98, and the Predator way just really doesn't work anymore. I think that Predator way has to evolve in order for this team to take the next step. We need to become a younger team. Yeah, we had a great run with this core. I love this core, and this core will always hold a special place in my heart as a fan. But you also kind of have to figure out when to move on. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Andrew. And look, if the Predators, and we'll get back to the Predators, we're going to have Trevor Maddich on in a couple of minutes, so we'll take a breather on the Predators and get back to them after Trevor. So I'll just say this quickly. The Predators are going to get to a point where they're going to just have to start selling guys off. And as hard as it would be for the Predators, I think it starts with Ryan O'Reilly. I can only imagine how this team would play without Ryan O'Reilly. I think it starts with O'Reilly. Who the hell knows if you can find someone to take Steven Stamkos off your hands? I'm sure you can find someone to take Jonathan Marchessault off your hands. Like we're getting to that point. We're getting to that point. You can already see it in the national media. They're talking about the players the Predators could trade. We will get back to the Predators. So we will continue to take your reaction to the Predators' loss. Their 8th in 9 games last night in New York, 615-737-1025. But we will put it on pause for just a moment as we bring in Trevor Maddich. He'll join us. We'll talk college football and the NFL with Trevor coming up next, 615-737-1025. DVD is presented by Bax Homeworks. Remodeling done right. Get a free estimate at baxhomeworks.com.
Derek Mason here. If you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW Tigers or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson. You can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Trevor Matich, who is brought to you each week by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, the latest CFP rankings, if I'm not mistaken, come out tonight. We're expecting Vanderbilt to move up because the two teams directly in front of Vanderbilt, UVA, Louisville, lost over the weekend. But I want to ask you specifically about the Commodores' defense. The defense has struggled in the past 2 weeks against Texas and Auburn. I think we can all agree the problem against Texas was that the Commodores couldn't tackle. A lot of Arch Manning's passing yards came after the catch. But when you look at the Commodores' defense over the past 2 weeks, they've allowed they're averaging nearly 500 yards allowed over these past 2 weeks. What stands out to you about maybe something that's not working that was working earlier in the season?
Well, I think to start with, they're not doing a very good job of stopping the run. You know, they're about mid-level in the SEC, but they've got to do better than that. And when you're not stopping the run, that means the pass can get going. And they're one of the worst teams in the SEC at giving up big passes. And you know, Texas had some big plays against them. I mean, even Auburn threw the ball well, though. That's pretty weird because Auburn doesn't throw the ball well against anybody. But I think when you come down to it, what you want if you're Auburn is to be able to be more secure in slowing down the run so play action passes aren't quite so solid. And then they need to be able to – I'm sorry, there's a big group of people going by, and, of course, they're all talking as loud as they possibly can. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But and then they've got to somehow slow down the big plays. So that comes with tackling and busted assignments and things like that, which are not characteristic of Vanderbilt.
The one thing that I am looking for, other than where Vanderbilt is in the CFP rankings tonight, Trevor, is how far the BYU Cougars fall after losing over the weekend, because I think there will be a domino effect depending on how far the committee puts BYU down the pecking order after losing to Texas Tech. How far do you think BYU should fall after losing to Texas Tech?
Well, my guess is they'll fall to around 12 or so because the score looked bad. It was, 29-7, I think. But when the committee digs deeper into that loss to Texas Tech, they won't hate it as much as I think the BYU fans do. The defense of BYU was largely magnificent. I mean, it didn't get any takeaways, but they only allowed 2 touchdowns to Texas Tech on a day when the BYU offense and special teams were playing very poorly. And I think that's a big part of what the committee is looking for. Is this team worthy of being a potential playoff team? And you want to look at how the team performs. And so Texas Tech was held to over 100 yards under their normal yardage per game. They scored 29 points. They averaged 42. So I think the committee will see a sign of hope with the BYU defense. The offense got completely shut down, and there was nothing that they could do. And the committee won't like that at all. But at the same time, this is on the road to one of the best teams in the country. So my guess is they'll go down around 12 or 13. But the thing that you need to worry about, though, is not getting to number 12 or even 11. Because right now, the highest ranked ACC teams are outside the top 12. If the ACC champion finishes outside the top 12 in the final ranking, they still will move up and bounce number 12 out of the playoff, because the top 5 highest ranked conference champions get an automatic berth no matter where they're ranked. Group of 5 champion will be one of those automatic berths. And right now there's no group of 5 team that's in the top 20. So if this keeps going the way it's looking, it's very possible that 2 teams will finish 11 and 12 in the committee's final ranking, and they won't make the playoff because conference champions ranked lower than them will jump up and bounce them out. So, you don't just need to look at the teams ahead of you and who has to lose and who do you have to jump. You've got to worry about teams behind you too.
Trevor Matich is with us. Trevor, earlier in the program, we were talking about how the fact that the Titans are in the driver's seat to have the number 1 overall pick again. And we were discussing a story written on Saturday morning by Pete Thamel at ESPN polling NFL scouts and executives on the top quarterback in the upcoming draft class. And Fernando Mendoza was the runaway winner in this poll conducted by Pete Thamel. So the question I had for Derek, and I would love your opinion on this. Do you think Fernando Mendoza is the type of quarterback worth trading up to number 1 overall for if the Titans have the number 1 overall pick and are soliciting offers?
Yeah, that's a great question, because the thing about taking quarterbacks that high is statistically it's a 50-50 roll of the dice. In other words, you got a 50% chance of that quarterback being good enough for your team that you offer him a second contract on the same team. That doesn't mean they can't go somewhere else and eventually become good, but it means that there's a 50-50 shot that this guy is your long-term franchise quarterback. It's a flip of the coin. That's all it is. Now, if you're going to take the risk, I think Fernando Mendoza is probably the best risk of the quarterbacks in this year's draft potentially. Now, keep in mind that the top 3 guys that most scouts are saying are the top 3, Mendoza, Dante Moore of Oregon, Ty Simpson of Alabama, are guys that could come back next year, and they all probably should come back next year for various reasons. But when you look at Mendoza and how he's performed this year, he's a big guy. He's like 6'5", like 230. He's got a big enough arm. He's got tremendous ball placement and accuracy. He doesn't get rattled when the pressure is on the way. He has made huge throws in critical moments, like the game winner against Iowa, which was it wasn't Iowa. It was, Oregon played Iowa. Penn State, that's it. That was just a dime in the back of the end zone. That'll be one of the completions of the year in college football. But that was under tremendous pressure. And he's got all of those tangibles and intangibles that you would want in a starting quarterback. If I needed a quarterback, if I'm the Browns, if I'm the Raiders, possibly the Cardinals, there's teams out there, maybe the Saints. We'll see how Tyler Shuck does. But if I'm a team that needs a quarterback and I could trade up to get the first pick in the draft, there's no question in my mind that the guy I would want to pick is Fernando Mendoza.
Now, headed back to college, Trevor, looking at, because there's 2 teams I think that are interesting in this, Notre Dame and Texas. I get it, Notre Dame, their schedule is easy they got Syracuse, and I forgot who the last, Stanford. So those are wins. Then you have Texas, who have 2 remaining games that are hard. What I'm interested in is a 9-3 Texas or a 6-2 or 8-2. What would it be? 9-2 Notre Dame. Who gets in?
It all depends on what the committee thinks the quality wins were. Mm-hmm. The thing about Texas is that performing in the SEC, top to bottom, that's a more difficult schedule than what Notre Dame can put out there. And Notre Dame already has lost to 2 of the best 3 teams that they played. The opener was Miami, then they lost to Texas A&M, and that was by a combined total of 4 points with a true freshman quarterback. And the committee will take that into account. But if you're just looking at resumes and things like that, Texas already has a win against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to finish, ranked fairly highly. They've got a tough schedule going forward as well. That win over Vandy is a quality win. And then they've got Georgia coming up, and then Texas A&M to wrap up the season. And so if they're going to finish as a 2-loss team, they're going to wrap up beating Georgia and Texas A&M in 2 of the last 3. And so I don't think there's any question that the committee is going to see that as a much better strength of resume than Notre Dame will be able to bring up. See, Notre Dame's got another problem, though. Notre Dame's big problem, at least I think it should be a problem, I guess it's not to the committee, is head-to-head with Miami. The committee has largely respected head-to-head wins amongst teams that have the same or similar schedule. Miami and Notre Dame both have 2 losses. Miami has a higher quality win than Notre Dame because they beat Notre Dame, who's ranked in the vicinity of 10th. We'll see where they are coming up this week. Whereas Notre Dame's best win was USC, which is ranked down, lower than 15. And when you look at strength of schedule, strength of record, metrics that the committee takes into account, they're very similar between the 2 teams. So why is it that Miami is ranked so far behind Notre Dame when the record's exactly the same and Miami beat Notre Dame head to head? That's something I want to see explained because I don't get that. But at the same time, if I am the committee, to answer your question, Derek, if I am torn between Notre Dame and Texas, if they both finish with 2 losses, I'm absolutely taking Texas because Notre Dame wouldn't be able to remotely touch Texas's quality wins.
Now, say a 9-3 Texas or a 10-2 Vanderbilt.
Oof.
I understand Texas beat Vanderbilt. I get it. But yet and still, Vandy would have the better record.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it depends on how well the committee, if you're saying Texas is 10-3?
No, Texas is 9-3, Vandy's 10-2.
9-3. Yeah. Okay, so in that case, see, I'm inclined. I'm like you. I want to know what you think, Derek, because I'm inclined to give tremendous respect to the head-to-head win. And if one team has 2 losses, one team has 3, but there's a head-to-head win by the 3-team loss or 2-team loss over the. Anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
I want to go with head-to-head, but at the same time, the committee in the past has taken a 1-loss difference to be enough to erase the head-to-head victory by the team that got that win. And so if you look at wins by Vanderbilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they win out the rest of the way, they've lost to Alabama, they've lost to Texas. What's their best win? Well, best win, they beat LSU. Probably Missouri is their best win, and that's a quality win. But they're going to have to play at Tennessee to wrap up the season. And if Vanderbilt beats Tennessee and they have 2 losses, Texas has 3 losses, if it's me, I take Texas because of the head-to-head. But I think the committee would take Vanderbilt because of the better record and the recency bias of seeing them win in Knoxville.
Yeah, I look at it from this standpoint with Vanderbilt because I think the South Carolina win was held against them because Lenore's didn't finish the game. I think, going up to Blacksburg, Virginia, beating Virginia Tech, I think that was a big win. But listen, Virginia Tech's not ranked. And then you look at Alabama, that was a closer game than what the score tells us. And get it, I know they have a loss against Texas, but I just think Vandy's close losses are being counted against them, whereas Texas close losses or even teams above them are counted as wins for them and not for Vandy. So I think I would take a 10-2 Vandy over a 9-3 Texas. I think Texas is a good team, but I think Vandy has shown more consistency than Texas have.
Yeah, well, when you look at last year, SMU played in the ACC championship game and they lost. But the committee put them in anyway, and the biggest reason is that SMU came storming back from being way down in the fourth quarter and almost won that game. And the committee spokesperson said at the time of the final ranking that they respected the fact that SMU came back like they did. Only a playoff-worthy team could do something like that. And they put SMU in the playoff. And Vandy, when you look at that Texas loss, Derek, they lost that game by a field goal, right? But Texas was up 34-10 at the start of the fourth quarter. Vandy ripped off 3 straight touchdowns unanswered by Texas. Vandy's defense stopped Texas on their 2 drives, including with less than 4 minutes to go. Vandy had scored a touchdown on a long pass on a busted coverage, and Texas had a chance with 4 minutes to go to run out the clock at that point. But they ran 4 plays and punted. So Vandy's defense stepped up. And then Vandy went down and scored another touchdown. And, of course, Vandy tried an onside kick, and they came within inches of recovering that, but it ended up going out of bounds before they could secure it. But the committee, I think, if they're consistent, will treat a loss like that the same way they treated SMU's loss in the ACC championship game last year as roaring back against a really good team and showed that they are worthy to be a playoff team. So if Vandy finishes with 2 losses, which means they still, will have to beat Kentucky, and that can be a tricky game. But then win that game at Tennessee, I think the committee won't hate the loss to Texas. They won't hate the loss to Alabama either. I mean, I think they're in decent shape.
Trevor Matich has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick. He joins us every Tuesday and is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, guys.
615-737-1025. We have reaction from our previous conversation about the Predators, so we will get back to that. If you have any thoughts on the Nashville Predators, who have lost 8 of their past 9 games after being blown out last night by the New York Rangers, let us know. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason and Adam Vingen. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Derek Mason and Adam Vingen here. Dolly Parton always puts me in a good mood. Always. 9 to 5. We don't work 9 to 5. We work 3 to 6. And I'm wondering if Andrew Brunette needs to find another job. Speaking of working 9 to 5, I said at the top of the hour, it's time. It's past time. I said it around a year ago now that the Predators should have fired Andrew Brunette. And after last night's showing, I quite frankly, I find it hard to defend Brunette. And I understand Willie's defense, which is how much of this is on the coach, how much of this is on the players. Well, they work in concert. And Derek, you made the point yesterday that the coach is supposed to give you that little extra oomph. And Brunette hasn't done that. Wes and Hermitage on our text line says, I am so done with Steven Stamkos. Get period, him, period, out, period, of, period, here, period. That will be difficult, Wes. Wes also says, I understand the Brunette firing talk, but I think this is on Trotz. As a coach, you can only coach the players that your GM puts on your roster. Trotz knew what the plan for the players was and got the wrong guys for the coach. I'm starting to think I hate GM Trotz, but I love Coach Trotz. Maybe he's not a good general manager.
Well, people have to separate the two. And I mean, listen, when he first took the job, his career here as a coach bled into, how people felt about him as a GM, a first-time GM. And he's been upfront, he's been honest, transparent in where this team is at, where he wants to go with this team. And, it wasn't a rebuild mode for him. He was trying to keep this team. And I get it from a player standpoint, where, those veteran guys in the locker room, it's not fair to them and guys that still have years left. And I'm talking about Forsberg and those guys that have been here prior to Brady Shea and all those guys coming. It's almost like you owe to them to keep a competitive roster while they're here. And I get that part. And I know it's hard to try to make that turnover. And that's what Barry has tried to do. Now, listen, it hadn't worked. And, it's been colossal from this standpoint, is that these guys it's not like a 1-year deal like football, like 1 year or 2 years, and we can get out of it second year. It's no bad. Okay, we eat it. We made a mistake. We can move on. It's not that way.
Nope.
You can't do it. And that's the unfortunate part, because when you take a swing or several big swings like this, there's a part of you that has to believe that if this doesn't work, what do I do? What do we do as a franchise? And I'm sure that Barry thought about all of this. Now, ultimately, it may end up in him having to fire the head coach, or having to dismiss the head coach. And this, honestly, maybe it should have been done at the end of last season for this point, because there was a point where it was like Bruno was just throwing his hands up like, man, I've tried everything with this team. I've tried lineups. I tried doing this. And we still are not getting the production that we need. And then Barry, at the end of the season, how he went, he had to talk to players several times about what I'm sure it had to do with the coach and where this franchise is going and everything else. You're talking to your key guys that you feel are going to be here. So I think that's when the move should have been made.
I went to the game on Saturday, and I was sitting in Andrew Brunette's post-game news conference, and there was a word that Brunette used in the news conference. Anytime I hear a coach say this word or some form of this word, my alarm bells go off. He was talking about the loss to the Stars. He called it unexplainable. You're the coach. Nothing should be unexplainable. If you don't have the answers, that is always a concern to me. I'll always remember this. When I was a young reporter, we're going back 15 years at this point. I covered the Washington Capitals before I moved here to Nashville to cover the Predators. And the Capitals were getting off to a really bad start. Bruce Boudreau was their coach. And they lost a game in Buffalo. And it wasn't particularly close, if I recall correctly. And I wasn't on the road. I was covering, the team on a freelance basis. So I was watching the game, and I watched the news conference after the game on the broadcast. And a reporter asked Boudreaux something about the direction of the Capitals. What can he do to help them get out of this? And he said, I don't know. And as soon as I heard that, I said, he's getting fired. And he did. Like, when a coach says, I don't know, it's unexplainable, I can't explain it, it's inexplicable, whatever word you want to use, that always freaks me out a little bit, because you're the coach. You're supposed to have the answers. So, to the point that Wes was making about Barry Trotz. And again, we will not have Barry Trotz on the program today because the team is in Sweden. So he will not be joining us at 5 o'clock as he usually does on Tuesdays. When the Predators went out last summer and signed Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea, I came in here, I was filling in, I came in here the next day and I said, my floor for this team this coming season, which was last season, was you got to win 2 rounds of the playoffs. And people were like, huh? I remember you and Willie talking about it. And you were like, was he talking about this coming season or in a few seasons? No, I meant that season, last season, because this team is old. Like, you had to strike when the iron was hot. If you're signing Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea, and you've got Forsberg and Yossi and O'Reilly, they're all, in their early to mid 30s. You've got to strike quickly because they're going to keep getting older. They're going to keep moving out of their prime. And they missed that opportunity by a wide margin last season. And it looks like they're going to do so again this season. So that was my point. Like, you can't convince me, because Barry Trotz has used this line many times. He's buying time. I signed Stamkos and O'Reilly and Marchessault and Shea to buy time as I build my next core. You cannot convince me that when Barry Trotz made his sales pitch to Steven Stamkos, he sold Steven Stamkos on, hey, come here. We might be good. We might not be. But, play for a few years until Matthew Wood is ready. I don't think I think they had just drafted Matthew Wood at that point. Anyway, my point is, Steven Stamkos, I know he's been struggling, but he had plenty of offers. He would not have signed here if he didn't think the Predators were competing. So I think Barry, this is something I will always wonder, Derek. And I know it's hindsight, and I know it's dangerous, but I will always think about this. Did the Predators' 18-game point streak 2 seasons ago that propelled them into the playoffs, was that a detriment to the long-term vision of the franchise? Did that 18-game point streak and that surprise playoff appearance give Barry Trotz and the Predators more hope than it should have, that this team was closer to competing than it actually was? I will always wonder that. And that was a great run. We loved that run, the U2 thing. That was our favorite thing. We ate it all up. But sometimes I wonder, would they have been better off being bad? Maybe then the Predators would have realized, this half in, half out stuff, it doesn't work. It didn't work for David Poile, and it's not working for Barry Trotz. And I want to point out one thing as well. Eric Francis, who reports on the Calgary Flames for Sportsnet, wrote a story about the Calgary Flames, who are the worst team in the league, and the fact that they do need high-end scorers. He has a list of all of the top scorers in the NHL, so the top players in points. And I'm just going to rattle off some of these names, and I'm going to tell you where they were picked in the draft. Nathan McKinnon, 1st overall. Leo Carlson of Anaheim, 2nd overall. Connor Bedard, 1st overall. Macklin Celebrini, 1st overall. William Nylander, 8th overall. Jack Eichel, 2nd overall. Cale Makar, 4th overall. Connor McDavid, 1st overall. Mark Scheifele, 7th overall, and so on and so forth. The Predators need a player like that so desperately. And this is a conversation for the offseason, but it's sort of like where we are now. The Predators cannot continue to fool themselves that they can be competitive. And the best thing for them, I will repeat this until I am old and gray. I'm already starting to gray, so we're getting there. The Predators will not get better until they allow themselves to get worse, meaningfully worse. I'm not talking about what we're watching right now. We're a competitive team. Let me rephrase that. Where a team that was expecting to be competitive is flailing all over the ice. I'm not talking about that kind of worse. I am talking about the kind of worse where you're not making the playoffs for 3, 4, 5 years in a row. The Predators have really never had that, and I think it's desperately missing. And I'm curious to see if these few days in Sweden maybe this could be this season's version of the canceled U2 concert, the trip to Sweden. And if the Predators turn it around, you know what? We'll all write about that trip to Sweden and how they bonded and how they came together and they said, screw you, Vingan, and other people who were doubting them. And they all came together and they won, and it was a grand old time. But I'm not convinced.
I don't think you can look at that season, which was the 23-24 season,
Yes.
and say, well, maybe that in hindsight, maybe that wasn't good for the franchise. There's nothing they could do with stopping that run that they went on. And when you do that as an organization, you do want to build on that, because you're looking and you're saying, even in that 18, 19 point streak that they had, even in that, you felt that, okay, if we add one or two more guys to certain positions, then we can be better than what we are showing now. And some of these younger guys that are showing that they can play, we can mesh them in with these older guys that we go out and get, or these 1-2 pieces we go out and get, and we will be more of a complete team. So I don't fault Barry Trotz for looking at that season and saying, you know what, we got something good here. Because again, you're talking about veteran guys, Forsberg, those guys, Yossi, that was a part of this. So what do you want to do? You want to say, okay, I want to add to this so we can continue that winning. And maybe it was the wrong move to make, maybe not. But I don't want to take that one isolated, sort of frame in their season and say, well, maybe it probably would have been better had they not had that, because then they would have been probably more closer to saying, hey, listen, we need to just scrap all this and sort of project for the future. It's unfair. At least I think so, to look at that and say, well, maybe they should have done that. Because when you're in the moment, it's like, how can we make this team better? Not how can we make this team worse?
615-737-1025. We have plenty of reaction. We will get to it. 615-737-1025. Also, an update on L'Jarius Sneed's legal issues. We will get to that as well coming up next. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie Donick, probably asleep. It's
Yes.
midnight
Let's
in
wake him up.
Sweden. Let's wake him up. We don't have to pay for the international
Exactly.
charges.
Let's text Willie.
Hey,
Let's
Willie,
just
are you
text
ready to come on
him.
the
Let's text
show?
him.
Let's text Willie.
him.
Hey, Willie, are you awake?
Hey, Willie, we got a show to get to do.
I mean, Willie had a long night, man. He called the
Yeah.
game and then had to get on the red eye from New York City.
Ah, that ain't a long night. He went to sleep, man. He went to sleep on that luxury plane.
Yes, he did not have to jam into coach
Yes, exactly.
on the commercial liner. He did get to fly on the Predators.
No, but
jet.
it's still tiresome to do all that and to travel.
I
get
hate
it.
long flights, man.
I do too.
I
do.
don't sleep on planes. Even maybe I
do.
would have if I'm sleeping overnight, but I would probably need to take something to conk myself out.
Yeah.
But Willie, he's probably fast asleep. Maybe we'll play a prank on Willie between now and the time he comes by. Well, he's not listening right now. He's asleep. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We have some more reaction to our Predators conversation. We will get to that. But I do want to point out this story from Nick Suss of the Tennessean with the headline, Texas grand jury files to indict L'Jarius Sneed for failure to report felony. Nick Suss writes, the indictment filing obtained by the Tennessean for the state of Texas versus L'Jarius Sneed, that doesn't sound good, reads as follows, quote, Sneed, after having observed the commission of felony under circumstances in which reasonable person would have believed that an offense had been committed in which serious bodily injury or death may have resulted, namely aggravated assault, intentionally and knowingly failed to immediately report the commission of the offense to peace officer or law enforcement agency, and reasonable person would have believed that the commission of the offense had not been reported, and the person could have immediately reported the commission of the offense without placing himself in danger of suffering serious bodily injury or death. That's a mouthful of legalese, but as Nick Suss reports, L'Jarius Sneed has been indicted by a Texas grand jury on failing to report a felony stemming from a December 2024 incident in Dallas County. The Titans released a statement, quote, we are aware of the legal matter with L'Jarius Sneed and have remained in contact with NFL security per league protocol. We will have no further comment during an ongoing investigation.
So the other party involved, they reported it, right? I don't know how this stuff goes.
I don't remember all of the
reported it.
details.
Did they report it? Did they report it first? And are they saying he didn't report who actually did it, or he just didn't report it, period, as a incident that happened? Either way, I mean, it's unfortunate for everybody involved. You know, where this go, this may, you know, just really cement him not being here next season. With this hanging, you know, over, you know, his head, because he was indicted. Or when does the trial start? It may not start until next year.
A trial date has not
exactly
yet been set, according to Paul
So,
Kaharski.
The Titans may as well look at it like this. You've been injured since you've gotten here. You hadn't played well, and you have this stuff hanging over your head. I'm not saying it's true or not. I don't know. But if I'm a GM, I'm like, man, we got to part ways. I have to. You leaving me no choice, because I don't know how it's going to, I don't know once they set the trial, how this is going to end. You know, they may end up suspending you. The NFL, I need to move on from you. Again, you haven't performed to the level that we expected since we've gotten you. And you spent more time sitting on the bench because you've been injured than you have sitting on the bench because you're just coming off of playing a series. So it's unfortunate. Again, it's unfortunate for the Titans. And it's unfortunate for L'Jarius Sneed that he put himself in that position. So, you know, if I'm the Titans, yeah, I'm looking to move on. Wish him well and wish him, you know, the best with his legal situation. But if I'm an organization, I'm moving on.
Paul Kaharski writes that failure to report a felony where a reasonable person would have believed serious bodily harm or death may have resulted is a Class A misdemeanor, which is punishable by a maximum of 1 year in jail, a $4,000 fine, or both. A trial date does not yet appear to be set.
I
So
doubt if he gets any of that, but the league can say we're suspending you.
and one
after
texter
everything's
says,
come down.
please tell me there's legal precedent that we can release him and void the contract.
I think there may be within the contract. You can say detrimental to the ball club, conduct detrimental to the ball club. And that is widespreading. So, maybe they can get out of it. If I'm the Titans, I'm trying to. And it's no ill will toward L'Jarius Sneed, but one, they didn't draft you. So they didn't develop you. They don't know you like that. I know Borgonzi is now in that seat.
that's the wrinkle here.
Yeah.
Borgonzi knows L'Jarius Sneed, has worked with him in 2 places now. And I mean, the way that Borgonzi talks about Sneed, you can tell that they seem to have a decent relationship. So that's an interesting wrinkle in all of this. I mean, I imagine that Mike Borgonzi, look, he traded Jarvis Brownlee because he didn't feel that he was a culture fit. So I have to imagine that he might feel the same way about L'Jarius Sneed in this situation.
Again, I understand second chances, third chances. I get that part. But I think like Barry, and he's going to have to make this decision very soon. Either I'm going to do what's best for the organization, or I'm going to do what's best for the, player, so to speak. They could keep L'Jarius Sneed, but is that what's best for the organization? I'm not sure if that is what's best for the organization moving forward. Again, there were high hopes for him, and it has not panned out in no way, no how, no shape, form, or fashion. This has been a colossal failure this last 2 seasons with L'Jarius Sneed. He was once a good player, and he may end up going somewhere else and being a good player then. But as for his tenure here these last 2 seasons, it's been a colossal failure. I don't think it's been anything other than that.
So we will keep track of what's going on with L'Jarius Sneed, who the hell knows if he's going to play again for the Titans.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's hurt now.
Yeah, I seriously doubt that we see him play a snap for the Titans again, but we'll see. So in the NFL yesterday, Brian Callahan is no longer alone on the unemployment line. The Giants fired Brian Daboll. The Giants are 2-8 to start the 2025 season. Over the past 3 seasons, the 2 worst teams in the NFL, the 10-33 Titans and the 11-33 Giants. So makes sense that the Giants would move on from Daboll after a 2-8 start with the New York Giants. So here's the question that I want to attempt to answer. And I want your help, Derek. And I want y'all's help as well at 615-737-1025. How many aspects of the Titans coaching job are more appealing than the Giants coaching job? Because I bet if you were just to ask which job is more appealing, Tennessee or New York, my gut tells me most people would pick New York. So what I'm going to ask a different question. How many aspects of the Titans coaching job are more appealing than the Giants coaching job? So when the Giants hire their next coach, it will be their 5th full-time head coach since Tom Coughlin exited in 2015. Ben McAdoo coached for parts of 2 seasons. This is a really interesting list. Ben McAdoo coached for part of 2 seasons. Pat Shurmur coached for 2 seasons. Joe Judge coached for 2 seasons. And Brian Daboll coached for parts of 4 seasons. So they will be looking for their 5th head coach since Tom Coughlin exited as coach in 2015. So let's start here, Derek. First thing that comes to mind. How many aspects of the Titans coaching vacancy are more appealing than the Giants coaching vacancy?
Wow. I don't know. I really don't. Because if you look at, I think both of these teams have young players that could be vital to their success in the future. I think both teams have that. Giants may have more guys that have proven it. I'm talking about Malik Neighbors and some of the guys on defense. I get that. But the Titans do have young guys that they feel good about. So, I mean, if you're taking it from a player standpoint, I don't know. Flip a coin, you take your pick, because some can say, well, I take Dart over Cam Ward. But then Cam still has some growing to do, as well as Dart. He has some growing to do. So I don't think either one of them are finished products, nowhere near it. So for me, that would be sort of a wash in a sense. Maybe you want to take Cam because he was the number one pick. And you may end up with the number one pick again. So you look at the trades and potential trades you can make as that number one team. So that could be something that a head coach looks at and say, you know what? Okay, I can work with this. I think they're going to have, I can be part of something special. And then you may look, I don't know the Giants GM.
Joe Shane.
Yeah.
He's keeping his job, by the way.
Yeah, he's keeping his job.
Dave all got fired, but Shane remains, at least for now.
And he wasn't he the same GM that traded away?
Oh, he was the same GM
exactly.
who chose Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley.
Absolutely. So
yes,
from that respect, I'm going with Borgonzi. I am going with a guy that has been a part of a winning organization, that has seen how it's built and how it continues to flourish. So if you're talking about GMs based upon the last couple of things, I'm going with Borgonzi.
I would go with Borgonzi in this situation as well, because he's still a relative unknown, right? This is his first season as an NFL GM.
And that may help him in this situation.
Right. Shane has been around for a few years now. And remember, the Giants did that off-season Hard Knocks, and it portrayed the Giants so poorly that I think Hard Knocks had to cancel it because no other teams were willing to put themselves out there the way the Giants did. And a big storyline in that Hard Knocks was the Giants' negotiations with Saquon Barkley. And then Saquon Barkley goes out and has an incredible season and wins the Super Bowl with the Eagles. So that looks terrible for Joe Shane.
Yeah, but then he could say, I drafted Malik Neighbors. I've drafted
Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo.
Exactly. So he does have those things on his resume that seems to be trending upward, at least Malik Neighbors. Let's say that, because he's a bona fide stud. And they're going to need him back fully healthy next season.
The quarterback is also an interesting conversation because I bet a lot of you, if you put yourself in the shoes of a potential head coaching candidate interviewing with the Titans and the Giants, I bet a lot of you would say, okay, would I rather have Cam Ward or Jackson Dart? I'm guessing most of you would probably say Jackson Dart right now, because Dart has had more success this season than Cam Ward. But the question is, do you think that Cam Ward still has a higher ceiling than Jackson Dart? Keep in mind, as we talked about earlier when we were talking about Fernando Mendoza, the Giants reportedly were wanting to move up to the number 1 overall pick, presumably to take Cam Ward. And look, Jackson Dart, he's a risk taker. He's been evaluated for 4 concussions this season, including the preseason. So who knows what that means for his long-term health. So do you just look at what you've seen from Jackson Dart and Cam Ward right now and say, well, Jackson Dart's been better this season, I'd rather have Jackson Dart, therefore that is more appealing to me than the Titans and Cam Ward? Or are you taking more of the long view and saying, look, Cam Ward was the number 1 overall pick. It hasn't gone well now, but we still think he has a higher ceiling. So that's a question. Like right now, I think the advantage goes to the Giants. I'm wondering long-term if it still goes to the Titans.
We're not seeing, and I know people look at Cam and they say, well, Titans should have taken Dart, because there are people that feel that Cam just isn't the guy. And I don't know how you really can say that after 10 games. But there are some people out there that feel that way. I don't think he's shown anything that would make me believe he's going to be a bust. He's not when you talk about bust, you talk about Jamarcus Russell, you talk about Ryan Leaf, guys that had come in the NFL and just were not good. It just didn't look good from the start. And I don't think that Cam Ward is that. Now, has he looked great? No, he hasn't looked great, but I think he's gotten better in areas, that maybe, people are not really recognizing. And there's still a lot he has to do, or has to get better at as a quarterback moving forward. If indeed he's going to be that franchise guy, I'm not even talking about him being elite. And I think that's why people are hung up on it, is because when you're drafted first of all, they expect you to be elite. I just want him to be a franchise quarterback. That's what I want him to do. And I want to make sure, and I hope that they surround him each and every year with better players. Because when you surround a franchise quarterback with really good players, ultimately you will get where you want to get, and that's the Super Bowl. So he doesn't have to be Peyton Manning. He doesn't have to be Tom Brady after 6 or 7 years. He has to be a franchise quarterback. That's what he needs to be. He has to be able to win you football games. And I don't think consistently, I don't think we can determine that right now. So if I'm looking at both jobs, basically what it does come down to is ownership. I think that's what it ultimately comes down to, is ownership.
And that's an interesting conversation, which
Mhm.
we should pick up on the other side, because that's another thing that a coaching candidate has to factor in. 615-737-1025. My question for all of you: how many aspects of the Titans coaching job are more appealing than the Giants coaching job? 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com. We will pick up the conversation with Derek's point about ownership coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are brought to you by Bax Homeworks. Financing options are available to make your remodel easier than you think with Bax Homeworks. Get a free estimate at BAXHomeworks.com. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. My question 615 737 1025. How many aspects of the Titans coaching job are more appealing than the Giants coaching job now that the Giants have an opening after firing Brian Dable? I do want to get to your point, Derek, about ownership because that is an interesting part of it. But let's get to some of your reaction first on our text line. Zach says, I think the Titans would be preferred over the Giants. No state income tax in Tennessee. Pretty good weather. Great people. Nashville is a destination. Now, I think the same would go for a coach. Cam Ward has a higher ceiling. I think there are plenty of coaches who would love to take the opportunity to develop a young quarterback with his potential upside. One texter said, along the same lines, no state sales tax or no state income tax. There is a state sales tax, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
no
there
state
is.
income tax, smaller media market, so hopefully less pressure, easier commute, domed stadium. Now, I know the traffic in the New York, New Jersey area is hellacious, but Tennessee, Nashville, traffic isn't great either.
Exactly. Ain't a walk in the park.
No, it's not. So let's talk about ownership because we know about Amy Adams Strunk, so we don't need to go over that. The Giants have two main owners, John Mara and Steve Tisch. And I found this story from The Athletic that was written more than 3 years ago. This is the headline. Let's see if I can find it. It's a very long story. This place is messed up. Under Mara's hands-on ownership, Giants slide from model franchise to dysfunction. Written by Dan Duggan. And here's an interesting passage, Derek. Quote, unlike some NFL owners, such as Tisch, John Mara doesn't have outside business interests. So most days he's in meetings and on the practice fields at the team's headquarters. Despite his presence, Mara said last week that the general manager and head coach make all of the personnel decisions. A former employee called Mara, quote, the final gavel, end quote, and the owner said he approves, quote, 99.99%, end quote, of decisions, with his only objections occurring, quote, if there's a conduct issue. So John Mara, John Mara sounds like the polar opposite of Amy Adams Strunk.
Yes.
You have a hands-off owner and a completely hands-on owner. It depends on how you feel. Would you rather have an owner like Amy Adams Strunk, who doesn't even live in Nashville, right? Would you rather have an owner who's hands-off, or would you rather have an owner who apparently has nothing else better to do, so he's sitting in all of your meetings?
And that's, hey, listen, it's their franchises. If they choose to insert themselves in it, then you would hope that because they've been around it for so many years, that they sort of understand the inner workings and how it goes. And even though they're there, they're not meddling as much. They're just sort of on the outside looking in. I'm there. I'm seeing how the process goes. Whether it's Merritt in New York, whether you like that as a head coach, that he's basically in your grill, and maybe it's his only job, but it's a big job. That's a huge job. You're talking about a Fortune 500, company. You're talking about $1 billion company. That should be your only job. You should pay attention to that, like no other. But I understand these owners have more than one thing going on at a time, and they've been able to juggle that. So do you want a guy that's going to be in the building every day, or do you want an owner that comes in during the games, not here as much, but yet and still she's, at least from the outside looking in, she's inserted herself in the situations that the fan base thinks maybe she shouldn't have. And we all know what those are. So I don't want to relitigate that over again. So, but I would say one thing. Head coaches, I believe that, the owner's there, but, be there, but don't be in this. You hired us to do a job. Allow us to do that job. And I think that's what Amy is doing. She's allowing, she's giving, Brinkert the power, and Brinkert has found his GM Now allow the GM to be GM and allow the head coach to be a head coach. So if I'm coming in into both of these franchises, I may lean toward the Titans because, again, yes, she's not here, and some people don't like that. But if I'm a head coach, I'm like, cool, because I know that she's not one of those meddling, like she needs to be in everything. I'm the head coach. There's a hierarchy here. I answer to the GM. GM answers to somebody else. But we're all working together. The owner is not looking over my shoulder saying, no, you need to make this call or you need to make. I don't need that as a head coach. I got too much to worry about as it is, or a lot to worry about as it is. So I don't need the owner along with the GM and along with the supreme ruler of football all looking over my shoulder. Cut one of those people out and allow me to do the job that you hired me to do. You're a smart owner. You hired a smart GM. I hired Brinkert, who is a smart individual. His job, whatever it is, he seemed to be good at it. Hopefully he's found the right GM, and then hopefully the GM finds the right coach. And if that's the case, then let the GM do that. Don't meddle in anything. So if I'm thinking at it from that aspect, I'm taking the Titans job. I really am, because I don't have to worry about the owner being on the field. I don't have to worry about the owner having his hands or her hands all in what we're doing. No, the owner is being the owner, and she's allowing the GM to be the GM, which means I get to be the coach.
The Giants' job appears to be more
like, not to say the Giants' job isn't a good job.
But I think that the Giants' job, it's the Giants are closer to being a finished product than the Titans right now. They're both pretty far from being finished products, but the Giants are closer.
But they only won one more game than the Titans.
But I think my argument, that is true. My argument would be that when you're looking at the players in premium positions,
yes,
you have Malik Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
You hope you have Jackson Dart.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Abdul Carter.
Yes.
You've got Brian Burns. You've got Andrew Thomas. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you've got. I think that the Titans player, the Giants players at those positions are better than the Titans players at those positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Titans have Jeffrey Simmons. The Giants have Dexter Lawrence. It's kind of a wash, maybe, I would say. So, like, if you're a coaching candidate, you may look at the Giants and say, we've got a young quarterback who has shown some promise in his rookie season if he doesn't keep getting concussed. You've got a fabulous young wide receiver who's currently injured, but had a great rookie season. You've got a young stud at edge in Abdul Carter. Like, you may be closer to figuring it out with the Giants than you would the Titans. The Titans have more draft picks than the Giants next season. But it really comes down to building an identity. You heard Mike Borgonzi say this last week, that the Titans currently do not have a culture that is conducive to maybe building up some of these younger players. He mentioned it with Jarvis Brownlee. Why did the Titans trade Jarvis Brownlee? Borgonzi said that there were certain things that perhaps Brownlee wasn't doing well, and the Titans did not have the infrastructure at the moment to help him do those things. So they shipped him off. So perhaps you're a potential head coaching candidate and you see an opportunity to build the Titans in your image. Maybe that's more appealing than the Giants' job, where maybe some of that infrastructure is already in place. It's still a work in progress, but maybe there's a little bit more in place. With the Titans, it feels like the world is your oyster, really, if you can come in there and try to build a culture from scratch.
They don't have and this may be, and I don't know how the New York Giants locker room is, and I'm not going to pretend to know. But I do know what Borgonzi explained to us in his press conference, and you're right. They don't have the necessary leadership in locker room, enough leadership in that locker room to have to sort of navigate a player that he has the upside. He was our starter, but it's rough around the edges. Again, I sort of compared him to Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters had trouble grabbing and holding and all, but once he settled, he was a damn good defensive back. Now, the reputation that he built, sort of hurt him at times during the game with the holding and stuff. But their locker room, especially in Baltimore, their locker room had enough leaders that they can sort of manage that situation. And he ended up being a good player for them and was on some really good teams. They don't have that infrastructure right now. And when you don't have that infrastructure, what seems to be to us, like, man, that's small. The kid got talent. It's huge in their locker room because they have nobody that knows how to sort of massage or finesse that long enough to where he grows into being a really good pro, not a player. Being a really good player and a really good pro is two different things. They don't have the infrastructure to make sure to wait on him to become a really good pro. At least that's what I heard from Borgazzi. Now, Brownlee has a different story, I'm sure. So we'll wait on that. But from what I heard, and I'm not saying that I believe that, but what I heard from Borgazzi, we just don't have the infrastructure right now to have to massage something, an individual like that, or smooth out the rough edges on an individual like that, or a player like that. Again, he's not a bad guy. It's not about being a bad guy. Sometimes your attitude, your personality just doesn't mesh with a locker room.
And you also have to keep in mind, of course, that the Giants and Titans are not going to be the only teams with head coaching vacancies. They're the only two with head coaching vacancies right now. I think we're all expecting a change in Miami with Mike McDaniel. Jonathan Gannon. Look, I only pay attention to the Arizona Cardinals when I absolutely have to, and I did for a week when the Titans played the Cardinals. So I don't really know what's going on in Arizona, but doesn't seem like it's going well for Jonathan Gannon. So I imagine the Cardinals may have a job opening. There are going to be more. So the Titans are going to have to compete with some interesting teams. Like, I don't know how people view the Arizona Cardinals job.
Mm-hmm.
They play in a domed stadium. The Titans will soon play in a domed stadium. How do you feel about, I mean, the weather's probably great, right? Living in the desert. Why,
they don't have a state tax either, do they?
Arizona does have state income tax, if I am not mistaken. I don't know how you feel about Kyler Murray as a quarterback.
He may be gone.
So you're probably starting from scratch there. But, when I'm looking at specifically the Titans and the Giants, because those are the two teams that have openings right now. To me, like, if a coach is looking for a situation where they can probably be closer to winning sooner rather than later, it's probably the Giants. But if they look at the long view and perhaps this, head coaching candidate sees Cam Ward with more upside than he has shown, and he has the ability, this potential coach, to build a culture from scratch, I do think that the Titans are fertile ground for that. So I do think it will be interesting. So I think there are pros and cons for both jobs, for both the Titans and the Giants. And we'll see what happens as other teams fire their coaches and the Titans are going to have to compete.
So you think the Titans have more of a clean slate?
Right. Like, I think if you're
build on.
Correct.
Okay.
I think the Giants have more things in place than the Titans do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Titans don't have a Malik Neighbors.
Exactly.
The Titans don't have an Abdul Carter.
But you have a chance to draft those guys.
Yes.
Coaches.
And I feel like you have more of an opportunity to start from scratch in Tennessee than you do in New York. And that may be appealing to a head coach, being able to build something from the ground up. So hit some headlines around the NFL, including one player in the Titans division who will be out for the season. And I'm bummed about this because these two teams haven't met yet. So we'll get to that as well. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Derek Mason here. And if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event, or see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Houston, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025 The Game. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan here with you on your drive home. We will be back in studio tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Jonathan Hutton will join us. We have silly underdog picks. Derek Mason won, unfortunately. So we will get to that.
And he's gonna be a gracious winner too.
Yes, he is a gracious winner, Derek Mason.
Yes,
I've never known Derek Mason to be a sore winner.
And he loves the kids.
And he loves them kids. Yes, he does. So a couple of headlines in the NFL I want to get to. The first, Travis Hunter will miss the remainder of the season after undergoing surgery on his right knee Tuesday. The Titans did not have a chance to see Travis Hunter this season because the Titans have yet to play the Jaguars. So when they do, there will be no Travis Hunter on the other side. Hunter, according to ESPN, had his LCL ligament, the lateral collateral ligament, repaired in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
There was no additional damage to the knee, and Hunter is expected to return to full football. Say that 10 times fast. Full football activities within 6 months. Travis Hunter played, let me find that number, 67% of the team's offensive snaps and 36% of the defensive snaps until his injury. And Derek, you were saying all spring and summer long that Travis Hunter was going to get himself hurt, playing as much on both sides of the ball as he did. And now Travis Hunter is out for the season after undergoing knee surgery.
Listen, I don't know if this knee injury was directly related to him playing on both sides of the ball, but I'm sure it didn't help. I mean, it didn't help him not get injured. It's just, I think what people sometimes want to see something that has never happened before, and they will believe it until somebody tells them or shows them it can't happen. You can't play in this league on both sides of the ball for a long period of time. You can't be a star. You can't play 70 plays or 50 plays on defense and 40 or 50 plays on offense. One, mentally, it's just taxing going back and forth. And are you spending enough time in those meeting rooms to know everything that you need to know and know it like the back of your hand? I don't need somebody that knows a little about offense and a little about defense and then throw them on either. No, you need to know the whole playbook, because I got to be able to throw you in at key times of the game and not be worried about whether you know a play or if you got enough time in the meeting rooms for offense or defense. In practice and in games, people just look at the games and they say, well, he can do it. You're not talking about the plays he's playing in practice, the reps he got to take in practice on both sides of the ball. That's why, along with a lot of other stuff, but that's why it's so hard, like, to consistently be able to do that. You can do it in college. I can name you 10 guys that I think either done it or could have done it. But when they get in the NFL, it's just not going to happen, because you got to put so much focus toward one position that, man, you ain't got time for another position, really. In that position be a primary position. I can play receiver and be a punt and kickoff returner. That's easy. Guys have done it forever. But not many guys have done being a full-time starter on offense and a full-time starter on defense. Not many of those guys around in the NFL. And there's been some great players that come through this league that could play. Ed Reed is a guy that I bring up every time when you talk about a two-way player. Ed Reed, from what I saw, could have played both offense and defense. And if he would have concentrated on offense like he did on defense, I believe he would have been a Hall of Famer in offense. That's just the type of player he was. But he couldn't. That's not what he was great on defense. Why? Because he put so much attention toward it. He knew it like the back of his hand. You can't do that on both sides of the ball each and every day, each and every week. It's just hard to do mentally, physically, and emotionally. So I don't know if the injury was because of the, plays that he played, but I'm telling you that maybe I could say maybe it didn't help him being on field that much on Sunday and throughout the week. So I hope this kid, gets back and this injury is nothing. It's just a minor setback for him. Maybe it's a meniscus or something. They said what was it?
LCL.
LCL. Maybe that's something that, have surgery, rest, rehab, come back, and you're stronger than ever. But that should tell Jacksonville that either you're going to play him on the defensive side or the offensive side, one or the other. There ain't no going back. You gave up too much for a guy that you tried to force to play both sides of the ball.
And as Willie has said, the Jags bragged about it too.
Exactly.
They made a huge deal about trading up to take Travis Hunter and how he was going to play on both sides of the ball. And now, unfortunately, Travis Hunter is out for the season after undergoing knee surgery. The Titans, by the way, don't play the Jaguars until the end of the month, November 30th at Nissan Stadium. They also end the season at Jacksonville. I was
looking forward to seeing him.
I was as well. So we'll have to wait until next season to see the Titans take on Travis Hunter. Derek, another story that's been out for a few days, but you
Mhm.
wanted to touch on it because we did not touch on it last week. Bud Adams
Mhm.
was among the Hall of Fame contributor semifinalists announced last week, among 9, along with Robert Kraft. According to the Associated Press, a blue ribbon committee reduced the candidates from an initial list of 21 nominees in voting released Thursday. The committee will meet next Tuesday, which I assume is today, to select one finalist who will advance to voting conducted by the full selection committee early next year. Of course, Bud Adams founded the Oilers when the AFL started and owned the team for 54 years, moving the franchise to Tennessee in 1997.
He, Lamar Hunt, as well as Ralph Wilson, they were AFL owners. And, they found themselves and they found a way to get in the NFL. Both of them merged. 2 of the 3 are already in the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, Bud has the resume of a Hunt organization or a Ralph Wilson's organization, because they don't. But Bud was key in this merger. Bud has done a lot of good things for this league. And he shouldn't be remembered for moving his team from Houston to Tennessee. He wanted a new stadium. I don't know the ins and outs of all of it, but he wanted a new stadium, and Houston didn't want to give it to him. And just like teams before him or teams after him, they end up moving. So I don't think that should still be held against him, if it is. But I think, if you're talking about worthy of Hall of Fame, I think he is, along with the 2 guys that are in already, Hunt and Wilson, that are in already, that were a part of the AFL merger. They called them the Foolish Club, So I do believe Bud deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And it's unfortunate that it's taken this long, but I do think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not the only person that believes that feels that sentiment.
It does feel strange that he isn't already in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So we'll see if he finally gets an opportunity to be enshrined in the Football Hall of Fame. The other major story in sports today, the Dallas Mavericks did what everybody has been clamoring for since the moment that Nico Harrison traded Luka Doncic, and that is the Mavericks firing Nico Harrison. And I will tell you my favorite part of this story, Derek. I have to find the tweet from Sham Charania of ESPN breaking the news of the trade. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. This tweet was sent out at 9:21 a.m. Breaking: the Dallas Mavericks and owner Patrick Dumont are expected to fire general manager Nico Harrison at a 10 a.m. Central Time meeting on Tuesday. Sources tell me and Tim McMahon. And I saw this and laughed my ass off. Imagine if you're Nico.
Exactly.
Imagine if you're Nico Harrison. It's 9:21 a.m. and you see this tweet from Sham Charania. If you're Nico Harrison and you have seen there's a report that at your 10 a.m. meeting you're going to be fired, do you even show up for the meeting? Like,
I'm sick.
like not that you wouldn't be fired anyway. Like, you're going to get fired, but it's like, I know I'm about to be fired in 39 minutes. So maybe I should just not show up.
I'm sick. You got to wait till tomorrow.
And look, he had to know this is what it was going to be, right?
Yeah,
but I just thought that was so funny. At 9:21, he's going to be fired at a 10 a.m. meeting. And if I were him, I would have been like, deuces. Like, just send me the paperwork.
Yeah, but
I don't need to come.
Obviously, you got to go in there and you got to talk. Well, listen, Nico, we love you, but it's just not working out. You got to go through all that stuff, formality and shake hands. It's nice to have you around. If you need anything, just let us know. Family, all this other stuff, man. They had to go through it. But, everybody saw this coming. The minute AD started getting hurt again, and then Kyrie gets hurt, even though that wasn't a part of the trade. But you're talking about Lively getting hurt. You're talking about guys that you depended on. None of them were playing. or they were all playing at different times. Kyrie was gone for the season. AD was in and out of the lineup because he's hurt. I think he's still in and out of the lineup. And oh, by the way, Luka's averaging 40 points.
Yes, he is.
I mean, what did you expect to happen? Luka looks better than he's ever looked, and he's playing for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. That visual isn't a good one for Dallas and Dallas fans.
No, and I just is that the next wave of reporting? Like, not only are we going to report that a coach or GM is going to get fired, but we're going to report at the specific time when that coach is going or GM is going to be fired. So I saw that he's going to be fired at 10 a.m. and I looked at my phone. It was like 9:28. I'm like, this is very strange.
Well, if you don't have the particulars about the time, you ain't doing your job.
You
ain't reporting, man, because somebody can say, yeah, he getting fired today.
Yes.
But if you have 10 o'clock, hey, man, you got the scoop I didn't.
But I see that, and if my boss calls, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Can we reschedule?
Let it go to voicemail.
Can we reschedule this meeting for tomorrow at 10 a.m. versus now at 10 a.m.?
So you want to control the narrative. That's what you want to do.
No, I just thought that was funny. It's like 40 minutes before he's going to go into a meeting and get fired. It's been reported that in 40 minutes you're going to get fired. Again, I know that he knew that it was coming, and that trade, man. That trade, I think people are going to talk about. It depends on what the Lakers do. I think the Lakers need to win, but I think people are going to talk about that trade the way they talk about the Herschel Walker trade.
Yeah.
This trade changed the course of NBA history.
There might be an ESPN 30 for 30 on it if the Lakers win.
I'm trying to figure out why didn't they nix the trade like they did with
yes,
CP3?
yes,
yeah. Why didn't nix that trade? Why didn't nix this trade like they did
Silver.
years ago?
What are you doing, bro?
Exactly.
I don't know, but you don't have to hear fire Nico anymore because Nico has been fired. But yeah. I just thought that
Dallas
was so
fans
funny.
will rejoice.
Yes.
They're rejoicing right now.
That'll do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow right here at 3:00. Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us at 5. Silly Underdog Picks.
Oh yeah.
At 5:20.
Oh yeah.
I will be acting as commissioner again because Willie will be unavailable. I don't think Hal Gill went on the trip to Sweden, so I think Hal Gill should be available. And who the hell knows when Chris is going to show up?
Yeah, it don't matter.
But anyway, have a wonderful day. Once again, thank you to all of you who have served our country. Happy Veterans Day. Bridget, my lovely wife, happy birthday on the 16th anniversary of your 21st birthday.
There you go.
We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3:00.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear this music, don't you forget about us because we will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Peace. Good show.